After losing population for nearly a decade, Kentucky did something in 2020 that like nobody was expecting, and that was grow. Let's talk about what's happening. I'm Stephen J.B. Davis, your land specialist and residential realtor, bringing you land, luxury, and expertise in the Bluegrass and beyond. Happy 2026. It's January 27th. We're on day 2 of frigid temperatures, ice everywhere, everything's canceled, yada, yada, yada. So I figured I'm finished with all my admin work. Might as well make a video, right? I want to talk about the Rural Economic Report that the Department of, I would assume, Economics printed back in October of last year. I think it's really relevant to what I do and what I share here because the land that I sell happens to be in rural spaces. And if you either own land already or you're looking to buy land for whatever reason, these economic factors are going to greatly impact what you sell that land for or what you purchase that land for. So I want to talk about what the report says in part A of this video, and then talk about a little bit more, I guess, not anecdotally, but more casually about why people are here, like some of the more like day-to-day living factors that have increased the reasons why people are already here and why they continue to come. So when we talk about the Rural Economic Report, which is linked in this video, along with the 5-year Bluegrass Land Report Snapshot, those are the two sorts of documents that this whole video revolves around, but more so the Rural Economic Report. So what that report says, that report basically substantiates that, until 2019, we were going down. People were leaving, without a doubt. They were not staying in the state. 2020 rolls around, and between 2020 and 2024, Kentucky gained over 18,000 residents. Now, that may not seem like a lot, but for a place that doesn't have that many people, at all, it's a noticeable shift, and it's a shift that has continued to go up. We haven't gone back to reversing. We started this shift of people moving here and buying real estate here in 2020, and it has only gone up, okay? And that was one of the first findings of the economic report. The other aspect is just what the business environment is, and it centers around the fact that we continue to add jobs here in Kentucky. And I've said it in past videos, but a bunch of economic and statistician people have substantiated what I've said and found in lots of different places and put it in one place, and then went into much greater detail. But the moral of the story is about $35.5 billion have been invested and promised to this state from various sectors of, especially the manufacturing world, but also retail, trade, and healthcare. And in manufacturing, we make a lot of stuff. We make a lot of things concerning cars. You may have ever heard of Blue Oval SK. There's some Korean company that is, or maybe was, I can't really keep up. Our global relations are changing, it seems like by the week, but is or was, in business with Ford, hence Blue Oval. And I think the SK might stand for South Korea. There's battery stuff. We do stuff with Toyota. Georgetown has a campus here. Martha Lane was Kentucky's first and only governor, female governor, and she is the reason why Toyota has a presence here. But Toyota is part of that manufacturing economy. Corvette, I think I said, like the list goes on. And then there's all these other like second and third tier automotive manufacturers, goodness, that deal with people like Ford, GM, you name it. So we continue to get investment here, which investment then brings more jobs, and then more jobs means more people, and then more people means that we need more houses, so on and so on. We got to take land to make the houses and then to make all sorts of things. So that was another thing that the report found. It just substantiated that we are growing in these three sectors, and it continues to happen year after year after year after year after year. It's not a bubble. It's where we are. We are in growth mode. Okay. The other thing that the report touched on that I want to make sure I talk about is that the growth centers around our urban places. Urban, I use in Kentucky terms, not New York City terms. So the biggest growth is around Lexington and those rural counties that surround it. They center around Louisville and the urban counties around it. I suspect across the river into Indiana as well. But that's where most of the growth is, which we've talked about when I talked about the 5-year Bluegrass land report. But this report by the real statisticians just further substantiated that. This is where people are moving. This is where you're going to get the highest land values because that's where the biggest demand is. It has the most convenience to the cities, et cetera, stuff I've been saying for years. What this report did not say is not all rural communities are expecting the same amount of growth or growth at all. For instance, if you head out to Eastern Kentucky, I've talked about Eastern Kentucky in a lot of capacities, especially where cheap land is concerned. People see this price tag, they get super excited, and then when they stand in front of the land that I have already modeled to them on the computer is a mountainside, they see that it's a mountainside, that they cannot build there, that the $30,000 is not a lot of money, but when you only have a half an acre to build on, it's not that exciting. There's also just not that much economic stimulus. There's not a lot of economic investment. There's not a lot of jobs. So when you don't have those things, you leave or you don't stay if you've already lived there. And so a lot of eastern and southeastern counties are not seeing economic growth at all. They are seeing decline. They are seeing blight in certain areas of these counties. They're seeing all sorts of things that are really just not that fun to talk about and certainly not fun to experience if you're on the receiving end of those conditions. So this report is not saying that all rural communities are, out here just bursting at the seams with opportunity. It's just that previously the rural economy was doing this, the population was doing this pervasively, universally, and now we're seeing more of this in a demonstrable way. So then there are two other points to keep in mind if you decide to dig into this report and read all of it. Housing still remains a very big challenge. We still have a shortage of housing. There are a myriad of reasons why. It depends on where you are for what those reasons are. Just because things are more affordable here, it doesn't mean that things are just openly available everywhere. It can still be pretty competitive depending on where you live. And between 2022 and 2025, the housing market has slowed. It hasn't frozen, and we're certainly not in a buyer's market, not in most counties around here. Certainly if you go out to Eastern Kentucky, you probably have a lot more leverage in those counties than you do in Central Kentucky and going out to Western Kentucky. But the days on market have increased. People are unsure, and that's indicative of a lot of things. It's indicative of a low motility of people's jobs, meaning how people ascend in their careers or ascend within a particular company or something. It's indicative of tariffs. It's indicative of interest rates. It's indicative of a lot. There's a lot happening right now if you haven't noticed. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, there's just a lot happening. That's a fact. And so the days on market are just a reflection of consumer confidence. People are not as confident to say, hey, I want to spend $500,000. I want to spend $2 million. I want to spend $300,000, whatever the case may be, on real estate in a place when they have all of these other question marks in their life that affect the way that they're going to live going forward. So those are the things that it doesn't say. And so with all of that, I always tell people, when you hear me give this kind of information, you've got to measure it against your own situation. I'm not going to tell you to go out and buy land today and go out and spend money in Kentucky right now. You've got to figure out if it measures up with your own personal home economics, your plans in life, your 10-year plan, your 5-year plan, whatever the case may be. So just be warned, be prudent, and ask questions. Be willing to learn when someone's telling you the answer, even though it's not the answer you may want to hear. And so then let's talk about some of the reasons why. There's three main reasons why things are happening here in terms of like day to day, like how it may affect you. I talked kind of high level, like here are the kinds of jobs that we have, here are the places where it's happening. What does that mean for you? Why did people decide to come here in the last 5.5 years? The first part is just a total change, a shift in the workforce that we've seen since COVID. You can work a lot of jobs, not all jobs, but you can work a lot of jobs practically anywhere. If you've got internet connection, you can do your job, because maybe you're just a numbers person, maybe most of your stuff is remote, maybe you Zoom wise, maybe you are a writer, whatever. There are a lot of jobs today that you can do from the comfort of anywhere, as long as you have some sort of smart device and the connection to the internet. And so with that being kind of the new normal, people then started to seek places where they could take their big salary, whatever big is to them, and go try to find a place that's accommodating to the style that they want to live and accommodating to their economics, which is point number two. In Kentucky, you're going to find things to be cheaper than a lot of other places that you would think most of America lives in. And most of America lives east of the Mississippi River, like 80% of us do. And then within that, most of them live in major urban centers. And when I say major urban, I'm talking, the Detroit metro area, which is millions of people. I'm talking Chicago, millions of people, DC, Atlanta, New York City, things like that. And so when you start talking about the cost of living in these places, or the cost to purchase a property in one of these places, and you say, I make this much money and this is how much it costs, a lot of people are not making enough money to get what it costs. Some people are making just enough, but they're not living as comfortably as they want to be. You move to Kentucky, you keep this part where you're making a lot of money, but you pay a significant portion less, not only to buy a house, but to put gas in your car, to pay your property taxes, to do all sorts of day-to-day things. Well, now you've solved working anywhere. You've found a community where it works with your home economics, and spoiler alert, people in Kentucky here are pretty nice, and you found a place that you actually like being around a bunch of other people that maybe you've had that you've heard some bad things about, because I swear Kentucky's just always the butt of jokes. But there's crazy people everywhere. I'm from Detroit, like there's crazy people everywhere, urban and rural. So point number two is just you get more for your money. And the third part is location. You are very centrally located here in Kentucky. I spoke about urban centers. Urban centers are coastal. We know a lot of what those coastal cities are: Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, LA, New York, Atlanta. Atlanta's not really coastal, it's like a little bit away from the coast. But you got that whole eastern seaboard, DC, et cetera, New York. Kentucky is one of these places where you can be anywhere in a really short amount of time, whether you're driving or flying. 5 hours to Chicago, 5 hours to St. Louis, 5 hours to Detroit, 3 hours to Nashville, 6, I want to say, to Atlanta. You get on a plane, you can be in any of those places in far less than a 2-hour flight. So with 80% of the world's of the country's population living east of the Mississippi anyway, and us being so close to tons of destinations east of the Mississippi, Kentucky just, it makes a lot of sense. You can get a lot of places really fast with lots of different modes of travel, along with paying less to be here in day to day, but also acquiring real estate, and then also having some pretty solid ways to work remotely. Like we've got Starlink now, we've got fiber optics that are only growing across many communities here in central Kentucky, making connectivity just so easy. So all in all, we're in growth mode. We're a place where sky's the limit for right now. We're not a place that's in a depression, and most people don't want to be in a place where they're in a depression. They don't want to have to pay an arm and a leg to be depressed. So people have decided to move to Kentucky, and that trend is growing. That's all I've got for you now. I hope that this is informative, helpful. 5-year Bluegrass Land Report snapshot is linked below. So is the Rural Economic Report. I will have a video for you next month, which is in February. But until then, thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts, your questions, if you've got real estate to buy or sell, and I'll see you later.